Well, first of all, we've got a return and report. Sister Coca and Brother Elwood, who I don't see here yet. So Sister Coca, you were going to return and report on last week's assignment. Tell us all about it.
All right, so I think last week's assignment was to share with someone about like the discovery page, right? And like the timeline, the generations, and the heritage. And actually, like, so I don't know, I don't have many options. Normally, probably I would have gone to my grandma or something, but you know, that's off limits right now. So my mom actually does like a lot of family history work, but she didn't know about like some of the options. And I showed her like the timeline page, and she thought that was really cool because like she could see like there was the filters on them too. So she could see like, oh, who was alive during like the Spanish influenza, for example. And we like looked up who was alive during like the Spanish influenza, and it was actually really cool because that was like almost 100 years ago. And we're going through like the exact same thing because they were in quarantine too. But like at least we have like internet, we have like more things to like entertain us. But she thought that was really cool, like that we were able to see like who was alive in like those times. And we like Googled the Spanish influenza a little bit, and we like found out a little bit more about our ancestors. And she loved like looking like at where they came from and like their timeline because she always says like when she does family history work, she could feel the strength of like our ancestors and our family. And so that was like a really cool experience to be able to see like our ancestors went through like the same thing that we're going kind of like 100 years ago. And so I thought that was really cool. Yeah.
I love that. And I love the comment that she made that she can feel the strength of her ancestors and that she got to share that with you. What a cool thing I hadn't thought about looking on the timeline and comparing the influenza epidemic. That would be a neat experience. I'm gonna have to go find somebody who was alive during that time and take a look at that. Great idea. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Did anybody else have a great experience with your homework from last week or sharing with somebody that you'd like to share? I'd sure love to give you time if you'd like to do that.
I had a cool experience, like just looking at my fan chart because my mom's a plumber. So when I pulled it up first, like on my dad's side, everything is completely dead, but on my mom's side, it's just blank. So it's kind of like half a fan. And so I started talking to my mom about it, and she was telling me that she'd actually had to put some stuff. So I figured out how to connect her work to mine. And so now I can see like 2 or 3 generations back on that side, like some family in Mexico, and that I didn't know we had done. They already have some ordinances done. And so that was kind of nice to see just because then I put on the countries option so I can see what country each of them are from, and the whole thing is just like a rainbow of like European on this side and then Mexican on this side.
That's so cool.
Was any of that surprising to you?
Yeah, because actually, so my last name is Ahlstrom, and that is Swedish, and so I figured we had a lot of Swedish ancestry, but it's mostly like Danish and Norwegian. And actually, the one that, so the ancestor, as far as it goes, it says Ahlstrom. His name was Ole Nielsen Ahlstrom. But what happened was he went to join the Swedish army, and they said there were too many Nielsens. So they said, you know what, we're going to call you Ahlstrom. And so that name doesn't really come from anywhere, actually. So I'm really a Nielsen, I guess. But they just decided on Ahlstrom because it was unique. So, and that's just the last name that's beat out all the other ones. So,
wow. Wow. Okay. Very cool. Well, I'm going to let President Nelson introduce our lesson for today. Amber, would you read that for us?
Yep. While worshiping in the temple is presently not possible, I invite you to participate or to increase your participation in family history, including family history research and indexing. I promise that as you increase your time in in temple and family history work, you'll increase and improve your ability to hear him.
So this came from the conference address that he just gave, and I miss attending the temple, and I love the promise that he made to us here, and that he specifically mentioned that one of the family history activities that we can participate in is indexing. So I've got a poll. What I'd like to know is if you've indexed in Family Search before and how often.
I've been doing it more recently than I used to do. Just because I have nothing else to do.
Good, good, good.
So we're going to go with the most recent answer instead of what's probably accurate.
We'll take that. So that gives me an idea of kind of where you are. And I'll put this up so you can all see what I see, that most of you have indexed before. So first of all, just raise your hand if you have been on Family Search and you've ever seen a record hint pop up. You familiar with a record hint? Okay, awesome. That's most of you. All right, so, and I think if most of you have indexed, so you know that indexing takes handwriting and turns it into searchable text. That's the magic of indexing. The reason that it matters is that we've got teams of photographers all around the world, or we did right before the quarantine, we will have again soon, that are photographing records. And they're sending terabytes of data every day back to Family Search, but it comes back like this in image format, which means that you could sit in front of your computer and you could look at it until some faithful soul indexes it. Once it's indexed, then the computer can do the searching. So it's really what takes the tedium of family history and makes it so much easier, because we can do our searches. It makes it easy to read, it's organized, and it's now searchable. You usually see your indexed records in your record hints, and also, if you go to the search page, you can search historical records. Those are the indexed records. All right. So I want to show you a few things about getting started, and then we're going to jump in and do it together. First of all, you find indexing on Family Search. Under indexing, you find it in the same way on your phone. I just like to see, do any of you index on your phone? Anybody who does indexing on your phone, raise your hand. No. Yeah, I'm the same way. I do all of my indexing on my laptop. However, I did find out it's possible to do the indexing on your phone. So you can access a batch and you can index it on your phone when you're waiting somewhere. So it is possible. This is what it looks like if you're on your phone. You simply go to familysearch.org, not the app, and then you choose from the hamburger menu in the upper right-hand corner, and you choose indexing. Okay, that will take you into this screen. For those of you that are indexing, this should be familiar. This is your main indexing screen, kind of your launch pad. What I want you to do, we won't take time to do it in class today, but sometime this week, I'd like you to take the guided tour. It'll be a good review if you're familiar with indexing. If you're new to indexing, it's a great introduction. If you introduce someone else to indexing, for example, if you introduce an investigator to indexing. So, question, did you know that, that investigators can index? Yes, no, they can. All you have to have in order to index is a Family Search account. So anyone can index. They just need to be able to get to the indexing page, and that just requires an account. So indexing is a very accessible family history activity for investigators to participate in. So going through the guided tour is a really good place to start. We'll kind of walk you through. They actually give you a batch, a dummy batch that you can index as part of the guided tour. When they do that, none of the data is saved. So it's like a practice batch. It's low stress, easy for you to manage. And you just click on Start Tour. So that's your first piece of homework, is I want you to go through the guided tour on your own. If the guided tour doesn't come up for you anymore, and it goes away, here I've got a slide. Once you've submitted an active batch or completed 5 batches, the guided tour goes away. So you can always get back to it if you just click Overview in the upper left-hand corner and scroll down, and it'll give you the option to try a guided tour. So most of you that have already been indexing will need to follow these steps. If you want to take a snapshot of this, you can, or just jot down how to get back to the guided tour. It's just a great refresher for indexing. Okay, let me just make sure I know where I am. Okay. If you want to take the guided tour on your phone, you can. You just go to indexing and choose Help Resources, and the guided tour will show up there under one of the help resources. Pretty straightforward. All right, so this week your assignment is to take the guided tour. So while we were visiting, while everybody was coming, Brady showed us a book that he's digitizing for his grandma. Brady, you want to just show that to folks? Have you put that away? I want you to think about family history in your family. Think about who in your family is doing any form of family history and what piece of family history they're doing. So Brady's got this amazing book he's going to show us. Be sure and unmute. Oh, I'll unmute you.
There we go. Yeah, so this is a book. This is a book starting with my great grandmother's and her family, and then moving back a few generations, just full of pictures, family documents, things like that. And so I'm working on going through and digitizing them, and then putting them up online when I have them available.
Okay, so is it mostly photos, Brady?
Yes, mostly
Okay.
photos, and then there's also some, marriage certificates and things like that. And one thing that's kind of nice with indexing is the fact that indexing makes those records a lot more searchable. So if there's a copy of the record that's in here in print, if it's already online, I can just go ahead and attach that to them, and indexing makes searching that a lot easier.
Great. So what I want you to do is, so Brady's grandma obviously had a ton of pictures, and her job was to, or her task was to gather those together and put them in a book. Brady's now digitizing them. So in family history, we kind of have the same type of thing. Different people like to do different jobs when it comes to family history. Some people are really into the computer part, and all they want to do is build the tree online. Other people love the photos, and they want to organize the photos, label the photos, find the photos. Others, I've got a niece that's awesome with interviews. She's doing video histories of people because that's her skill. What I want you to realize is that everybody can wear different hats in family history. Some people are going to love indexing. Some people are not going to be too much into it. Some people are going to love working on family tree. So the more tools you have, the more options you can offer people. I love offering indexing to 2 groups of people. One is investigators, people who aren't a member of the church. I teach a class of women from the First Presbyterian Church here in Cheyenne, and we meet together. The very first class I taught them was indexing, because they could go online and do indexing, and most of them are still indexing, and they love to do it. So it's really accessible for someone who's not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The second group that I love to introduce indexing to is those who've got a really rich family tree, where it's not easy to find ordinances to quickly take to the temple. You know, they've got a lot of pioneer ancestry, or they've got somebody who's done a ton of work. They might feel a little overwhelmed by doing family history. So I love to teach them indexing because it gives them an immediate way that they can have a family history experience by indexing records. So what I'd like you to do is I want you to think about an indexing experience that you have had, either while you were indexing or by finding a record that was brought to you by an indexer. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do breakouts, and I'm going to give you a few minutes. I want you to share your indexing story in your breakout room, because it's good to have an indexing story in your hip pocket, because the best way to introduce indexing to someone is to tell them your indexing story. Any questions about what I'm asking?
So is this a story about how we've benefited from someone else's indexing, or about how we've benefited from indexing ourselves?
Yes, either of those make a great indexing story. Okay?
After last week, I actually did some indexing. I never do indexing, but my daughter Emma had to like help me go through it. It was pretty lame. But guess what I found? You guys, okay. Have you ever heard of William the Conqueror? I don't know if you have or not. Okay, good. Me neither until yesterday. So this guy lived in like 1050 AD, and he totally ravaged England. He totally worked them over, and he was from Normandy, which is in like right across the little channel in France, but he took over England, and his ancestors and all of his people were kings in England forever. That's me. That's who I'm related to. Just saying. I started doing that thingy, you know, that chart thingy. It just started clicking back really far. It was pretty awesome. Anyway, I'm pretty much famous because I'm related to him. That's all I'm saying. All right, Melanie, take it away.
There's 3 terms in indexing that are really helpful for us to understand: batch, image, and entry. They'll be used all the time. If this is new, great. If this is old, awesome. A batch is a group of images to be indexed. An image, think of it as one digital page, and an entry, think of it as just a single entry on a page. And I've got some examples here. I want to thank Catherine for her awesome slides so that we could borrow them for this. So a batch is a whole group of images. You index in batches. That's familiar to most of you. An image is one single digital page within that batch. An entry is one event. So think of that as a baptism or a burial. And we index in entries as parts of batches. So there's several different ways that you can choose a batch, and we're going to do this all together because your next homework assignment is this week. I want you to index a batch. So we're going to choose a batch together. So I'd like you all, using your phone or your PC, I'd like you to go to Family Search, go to Indexing, and choose Web Indexing. Once you do that, that'll take you to the landing page, and then I want you to click on Find Batches to choose a batch. Okay, and I need you to give me a hands up or something so I know when you're there, so that I know when to go to the next step. Or you can put done in the chat window. That works too. So once you're under Find Batches, you'll see a screen that's divided. The batches are listed on the right, and your search screen is on the left. This is the way that I'd recommend using to find a batch, because you have a little bit more control over what you want and what you can get. So you can choose how to sort the list. there at the top. You can choose to sort it by difficulty or alphabetically or oldest to newest. I love to go in and sort it by the batches that are the most complete or by the oldest, so that I can help participate in moving the work along for a batch that's almost done. So once you are in this screen, you can find a new batch either by scrolling or by searching. Scrolling is pretty self-explanatory. You're just going to go over on the right-hand side and scroll down through the list. That's one way to find a batch. The second way is what I use, which is by searching, and that's over on the left-hand side, to go in and choose whether you want a beginning, an intermediate, or an advanced batch. So I'd like you to put in the chat what type of batch you usually choose, a beginning or an intermediate or an advanced. Awesome. Great. Wonderful, Catherine. Okay. All right, so you choose your difficulty level, and then you choose your language. I'm going to offer a challenge here that you could try indexing a batch in your mission language. Okay. All right, so you choose your language, then you click on search. Once you do that, your search results are populated and it filters down for the type of batch that you want to index from. Once it's there, you just click on the index button at the top and start indexing your batch. So what I want you to do is, Brother Miller, if you'll break us out again, why don't you put us in 3 groups total? I want you to find a batch to index, help each other with questions or ideas or comments, kind of share with each other what batch you have chosen so that you can help each other, support each other, and so you can kind of share your ideas. All right, Brother Miller, go ahead. I think, so I'm going to tell everybody in our group opted to index in a different language. We've got
That's super brave. I'm scared to
Spanish
index.
and Japanese and French. Yeah, I was really impressed. At the beginning of a project, you'll always be presented with the project instructions. I would encourage you to read the project instructions before you start. And there's always a temptation. I love Sister Grant. She came up with this. We call it TLDR. We do it all the time. TLDR means too long, didn't read. Because we live in a society where we're used to tweets and very short bursts of information. So we come to something like those project instructions and think, it's too long, not going to read that. So I'm going to encourage you, don't fall prey to TLDR. Read your project instructions. And while you're indexing, if you get a little stuck, go back and reread them. I have people that will call me on the phone and they'll say, Sister Balselman, I don't know what to do with this in this particular project. I have no idea because I'm not indexing the project, but very often I'll just go back and walk through the project instructions with them and the answer is there. If you'll read your project instructions at the beginning or go back and review them, it'll answer most of the questions that you're going to have. Okay, so that's my pitch for project instructions. So this week, I want you to go through the guided tour. And I want you to index at least one batch. And then, any questions about those 2 assignments? And I'd love on Wednesday for some of you to report on how that's going. And then for a little extra credit, we don't do extra credit in this class, we do extra blessings. Introduce someone else to indexing. Someone who hasn't indexed. It's super accessible. There are beginning batches out there. So someone who's not indexed can go index a beginning batch in English and have a great experience. I have a poll that I want you to answer so that I know what direction to head for our class next week when we talk about temple ordinances. If you'll look at this, when I say your temple list, that means when you go to family search on your family tree, you click on the temple tab, or you go to your app and you click on temple. I can tell already we're going to have an awesome experience next week because your temple lists are, you've got lots of variety. So you can see what I can see. This is where we are. Most of you have 6 to 20 names on your temple list. Couple with 5 or less. Awesome. So next week, we're going to talk about temple ordinances. Specifically, we're going to talk about the process of preparing temple names and how that applies to your investigators and your new, not investigators, to your new converts. The easiest way to help them with that experience.